Alright guys, thought I'd do a video update today. Don't think I've shown my office on this channel yet, but basically my office is pretty much finished. It's a nice little layout. I'll spin right around so you can see. About to swap these computers over because I constantly find it'll be sat here, which means when I'm trying to work or play on the Xbox, it's in the way of my chair, so I'm going to swap that around today. But this has been a work in progress for some time, and it's still not 100%. This is the little garden area as well, which is basically worked on yesterday. So I get the two sun lounges, which are sat in the back there. I might actually use one this morning. But I just sort of wanted to go over some of the bits and pieces today, because I was sitting thinking about this morning, because it's all well and good people saying, oh, you should move things forward, you should do this, you should do that, but often people don't, because they're already in a situation that is holding them back. So I'm just trying to find somewhere to sit this so I can drink my coffee while we talk. So, shut that door and the window's coming. A bit windy there. So, I'll say about this morning, because there's always something that's going to be a fly in the ointment in life. There's no getting away from it. For myself, one of the big problems, I mean, if I take Thursday and Friday. Thursday, my brother died, and Friday was my daughter's birthday. You've got to look at it from, you've got to accept what's been thrown at you, and you will have upsides, and it's about how you deal with it, how you see things, how you push past the negative stuff. I'm not going to get too much into my brother's stuff, because quite simply it's complicated, and some of the stuff that went on with my parents just wasn't the situation I ever wanted to be in, and it wasn't the way I would have dealt with it, and it was all very, very negative and just wrong. But you take it on the chin. You know, I recognise there's nothing I could have done to fix it. Recognise that people I was dealing with were unworkable. So you move on. You just go, okay, fine. Move on to the next thing. So this week, Thursday, bit gutted about losing my brother, even though we haven't spoken since the whole inheritance nonsense. But at the same time, he's still my brother. So regardless of the situation that was created by others, you just sort of go, okay, take it on the chin, accept that he's not here anymore, and move on. And in life, there's a lot of that sort of stuff goes on where you can be knocked back quite easily, but it's how you deal with it. I mean, I was just talking to my wife about, there was a TV show about, I think they say 1 in 4 children in the UK are in poverty at the moment. And we started watching the series, an episode of a series. And there's a lot of patterns in there where people sort of get knocked back down, in the sense of they have one thing go wrong. But the difference between them and myself, and this may ring true with some others out there, is I get back up. On the first episode there was a woman there, she's got 3 kids, hasn't worked for 2 years, known they're going to get evicted in 6 months, and waits for the eviction notice. She's going, oh, well, I've tried to do something, you tried. In my view, no, you haven't tried hard enough, because you've dropped down another rung on the ladder. That's often of your own making, whether people want to accept it or not. And I will get people arguing with me over it, because I've had this go wrong, I've had this. Everyone has stuff go wrong. I mean, another one this week, just had an inflated tax bill for my buildings in the Philippines. They haven't collected it for 3 years. Things seem to have doubled in price. Stinks of corruption, but not much I can do about it, and I put the positive spin on it. Well, was it a double negative that makes it positive? I think it did, because what I had is, okay, they're charging this, and I go, you know what, the UK, that's for 3 years. The UK, I lose more than that in 1 month to the tax system, so don't worry about it. So that was like, that was two negatives making a positive, because you're just going, well, I'm going to go and challenge the Philippines government over the taxes. So you've got to look at the fact that some stuff out there you have zero control over. Other stuff you do. And like I said, when somebody knows they're going to lose their house because the landlord's selling the property, you know that's going to drag you and your children into major poverty. You have a responsibility. It's not for the state to sort you out. It's not for you to sit there and go, oh, life's so hard. You have to work your way out of it. Now, I know some will probably go, it's easy for you to say. Well, my scenario is much broader than most people as well. Firstly, we don't have a unemployment safety net in Spain. We're reliant on everything I generate. So the fact is, we're in a scenario where if I fail, everything else fails. And not just here, but there's other things that are linked in the Philippines. You know, we have expenditures in the Philippines, whether it's around the properties, issues around when brother-in-law's business was wiped out during the big typhoon that took the roof off our properties. So we had to help them kickstart their business, helping other people start to get their path sorted out. They were also wiped out with COVID. My responsibilities are a lot bigger. So although people go, oh yeah, you know, it's easy for you to say because you have more money. I have more money because I will not take the knocks down and stay down. I get back up. And sometimes you will take a massive knock and it will knock you off your centre 2 months, 3 months. But I did not accept 2 years. I think that's where you've dropped into a rut. And there's a big difference. What you need to do is, even if someone's knocked you right down, you need to sit there and go, slap on the legs and stand up and go, I need to change what I'm doing. This isn't working. This isn't healthy. This is not fixing my life. This is not helping me. It's not putting me in a better space. And you have to work your way back out of it. And I say you, because it is down to you. No one else can control this stuff. It's you. Now, on YouTube, there's plenty of motivational stuff. There's plenty of stuff that you can learn to put into action. But a lot of it is about changing your mindset. Because, you know, it's like fitness. Going to a gym and working flat out for a month or whatever has no impact. Getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and going for 40 minutes to an hour every morning has a massive impact. It's the same as listening to a podcast about the 10,000 steps thing for walking. And there's been a couple of not surveys, what do they call it? They did some testing. You can't really call it a survey because it's not paper exercise, but they basically understood that the key to your actual steps a day is not 10,000, it's 4,000. Much lower. It doesn't mean don't do your 10,000. Oh, I'm normally doing 10, scrub it in half. No, what you should actually do is sit there and go, I'll try and do 4,000 a day. Because I know myself, if I'm in London, I'll do 26,000 steps in a day. But then the following day, I may be stuck at my desk all day, so I might get 1,500 steps. And the whole point is, it's not the 26,000 that matters. It's the fact is, I'm not doing the 4,000, which for me is go to the park, walk in the park 3 times a day. That will get me to 10,000. But if I walk in the park once, and then get a phone call, go back on the second run, and only manage to do like 10 minutes. I'll do 4,000 a day. And the reason this was relevant is when they did this topic, because I can't think of the word off the top of my head, they could see that the mortality rate dropped off with those that were doing more than 4,000 a day. It had a positive impact that they could actually see. It made a difference to your life expectancy. So that's something where you go, right, I need to do 4,000 steps a day, not 10,000, because I know a lot of you guys, probably the same as me, you struggle to get 10,000 every day. But if you do your 4,000, and then, like I said, when I go to London, I do 26,000, that 26 is a bonus. But realistically, it's the 4,000 every day, constantly, that is the important bit. And that's the whole point of this. If you've had something that took you off the ladder, ground you right down, you need to start thinking, how do you get back out of this? And I know it's not easy, and I know some people out there have tried to help in the past, and they fall off the wagon, fall back into the same ruts, same mentality, same thing. They will never change. And it's not me being negative, is I've been round and helped them so many times, but they're not motivating themselves. Like, for example, if I'm dieting, they will diet with me. But if I move on to something else, they will stop it. I'm not there 24/7 call to motivate them to do things. They need to be doing this stuff themselves. It's the same with exercise. When I used to take people walking, even around supermarkets. I used to do this years ago. I used to walk around Tesco's and stuff, 24-hour Tesco's at 3 a.m, because I wasn't buying much. It was actually, because I haven't had time to do the steps during the day, so I could go there at 3 a.m. and do it. And at the same time, it clears your head, because this is another thing. You go, I don't want to walk every day. There's lots of things that are linked to other things. So the going for the walk is not just about your 4,000 steps or your 10,000 steps. It's time to think, or it's time not to think, in the sense of you can clear your head and just take in what's around you. Look at the trees, look at the environment that's everywhere, and not have to think about work, problems at home, problems with family, problems with, health, whatever it is. It allows you to come out of that and do something outside the box. This is why, I know Stephen mentioned it, and there's been a couple other people mention it, I'm a lot more positive when I'm in Spain compared to the UK. Well, firstly, like this week, it's currently 30 degrees in my office, because the windows and that were shut. But in the UK, it's been snowing. I'm in a shared house when I'm in the UK, because I'm not there all the time. Don't want a house, don't want all the extra bills. The UK is extortionate. It's a condensed lifestyle, but it's, for me, it's more like a bunker. It's where you go there, work, then you come home to here. So it's not a very positive environment in the UK. A shared house, there's all stuff going on with people in the house, which I find pretty much pathetic, irrelevant, and just people with nothing better to do with their time. And it's quite funny. Well, it's not funny, it's irritating, because there'll be silly little petty stuff going on where they try and drag you into it, where myself don't use the kitchen, I use the laundry, and that's about it. The rest of the time I try and just keep myself to myself, and it's not me being miserable or whatever, it's just avoiding any silly conflicts that go on in the house. But that's not what my focus is. My focus is my home. The focus is doing my work, get the money in. Like we're saying with the house, we got the house from firstly getting it paid. Next thing is all the renovations, now getting the office finished. Now we're just going to start by looking at where the whiteboard's going, because I need to start driving forward for the next thing. And this is the thing. It frustrates me when people say it's easy for you. No, it's not easy. I put a lot of time in. I put a lot of effort in. Spend a lot of time away from home. I drive this stuff. It doesn't just happen. It's nobody gave me any of this stuff. I've had to go out there and make it. And that's the key to it. Is you've got to understand. It's you that controls it. It's you that generates your future, your destiny, and your actions and how you deal with it are either what's holding you back or pushing you forward. Because I was thinking about it. I was listening to a YouTube video earlier where I sort of got it from two sides, because I understood. There was an issue with the one guy where basically he started as a slave. So anything that goes up and above, that's an achievement. But if you start here, it will always be that you can't really go much further or whatever, because, you know, for example, say you're the guy from EasyJet. He borrowed millions off his dad to start his airline. I don't see that as an achievement. I see it as loans off daddy. And I'm sure his father wouldn't have let him invest in EasyJet unless it was actually viable in the first place, because his dad's no idiot. That's why he's got so much money. And there's lots of those cases where they'll ride on the back of their fathers. It makes it very hard, if you're in that position, to ever become, you know, where you're in a position where you feel that you've achieved something yourself, because it's often either misinterpreted about how you got from A to B, or you feel that you'll never get there because it was like there, tens of millions from daddy. So the point is, you had the favours of friends. Now, the bizarre thing is, when you're doing a GoFundMe or what's that? I'm just thinking about the public. Was it public financial PFO? Is it? I can't remember the title because they had the same on coin offerings with the crypto. But when you basically have got your group of friends that will invest in you, that's the same. But the thing is, your friends trust you with their money. They trust in your business idea. Now, they should actually understand what you're trying to do when they invest in it. Or they trust you because they know you know what you're doing. So the whole point is, I'm sure it's PFO. I'm going to get a public financial offering, I think it is, to do with shares, basically, where you basically people can buy shares in your business and can set your business up. Because I'll get it mixed up with the coin offering version, with the IPO. I'm not going to get into those. But the point being is that it's very similar to getting money off daddy, but you've used your group of friends, which in business that is normal. You know, you shouldn't always be investing your cash. Smart money doesn't invest their own; they invest other people's, because you're putting the commitment at the time. It's your idea, etc. So it can work two ways. So my whole point on this is, well, if somebody was rich in the first place and they managed to borrow off daddy, it means they had an easier start to it. Doesn't mean that they're always going to be successful. Doesn't mean they're as smart as their father was. But the advantage they've got with having a very entrepreneurial, rich father is they've got a mentor there that knows business. A lot of people don't have that luxury. It just means they have an extra couple of steps on the rung. Now, you can take that as a negative or a positive, in the fact is, okay, he's got a lot of positive stuff that's going to help him be influential. On the same side, he may never be seen as self-made because he's riding on the tails of his father. But the other side of that being is you could be bitter that he's had everything in life, or the fact that he will never be self-made because of the environment he's in. It all depends how you see it. My personal view is it doesn't matter. If you can see something out of somebody's abilities or something they've achieved, the key to it is actually dissecting that information and seeing what the value is and what they did and how it worked and what made it work. Because those bits of information extracted are the important bits. Where he sat on the pecking order, completely irrelevant. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure you won't be able to get somebody to lend you £30 million or $30 million. In the same way that, was it Stelios? I can't remember his name. In the same way he did. But the fact is, it's not about the 30 million. It's all about the scale. It's about the ability to develop something and see something and see opportunity and develop the opportunity and understand that a lot of these people have a lot of capabilities and don't get blinded by the fact of daddy's purse strings. You've got to see that they do have some abilities amongst them. Not all of them. I mean, some of them are solely relying on advisors and everything else from their very wealthy parents, but there's many out there that you can learn a lot from, and that's a key to it. Is don't get suckered into just it's because his dad's rich, because there'll be more depth to it, and it's dissecting how they evolved their business if it's something you want to get into. You know, I mean, aviation is probably one of the riskiest businesses out there. But at the same time, you may have the same thoughts of some rich child from who started a web development company or something else, and then it's like, well, why was it so successful? Because you can ride on the money so far. The rest of it is up to being able to sell a decent product and have a product that you can market very well. So there's always something to learn. So don't get blinded by just the fact that money pumps it in from relatives or whatever. You probably think, well, that seems very simple to do, but it's also the other bit on the negative when people are driven down here. You know, when you experience a lot of family deaths, or you lived with your parent your entire life and they died, or you had a bad divorce, you lost the house, you lost everything. Sorry guys, that's part of life. We may not accept it because this fluffy bunny world that we live in seems to ignore real life scenarios. It seems to, I don't know, it's a bit bizarre. I think it's more important to tackle a lot of this stuff. It's a bit like when kids have their first pets and the pet dies. It's part of the learning process that evolves you into an adult. Is the acceptance of change. And I do understand why some people will struggle with a lot of this stuff, because the environment we're in is currently wrong. But everything's about how you deal with it. And like I said, one of the key things is understand what's holding you back and then start cancelling it out. If you're staying in bed till lunchtime every day, there's your first problem. Get up and go and do something. Go for a walk in the park at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, then go for a walk again after lunch or before lunch. Do it 3 times a day. That starts the blood circulating, starts motivating, starts at the beginning. If you're riddled with debt, get all your debt figures together. And there's plenty of stuff out there that can advise you how to manage your way out of debt, even down to bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is not the end of the world. Bankruptcy puts you back at zero, and it's something the banks now really do not like. And, you know, I remember having a conversation with somebody. They're going, well, I don't want to go bankrupt because they'll never give me a mortgage for another house. And I'm going, but you can't afford the house you're in. You're depressed. You literally have nothing. You're worth nothing. You're never going to pay this off because you're in a cycle of debt, and the debt's above what's sustainable and possible to pay. So your hole's so big that you're under the illusion that you're keeping yourself in this cycle because they won't give you another mortgage when you lose this house, which is inevitable. Me being business minded, go, well, I'll cut my losses, I'll take the bankruptcy. Yeah, they'll take half my paycheck or whatever, and I'll go insolvent and start from scratch again. And you go, okay, they won't give me a mortgage, boo-hoo. I'll have to buy something in cash then, won't I? I'll have to work harder and bank it and do it the old-fashioned way. That's the reality. And I know some of you guys are going to come back and go, yeah, that's easy for you, say, Matt. But if you've got that much debt and whatever, and even if you went insolvent, they're going to take it on a monthly basis and keep you locked down. There's always work out there. There's always something you can do on the side. There's always stuff that's cash in hand if you want to. I'm very pro cash in hand, by the way. People washing cars and stuff, doing the windows, potting around in the garden, happy to pay everybody in cash. I don't see why they need to be taxed on it. I'm not a big fan of the tax system. It's just that we've been driven down accepting all this stuff, while, especially in the UK, they've just robbed us blind. And obviously now in the Philippines. Reference my tax bill. But the point being is, there is always a way out. And when you're at your lowest point, instead of keeping yourself in the low thing, like I said, with me, it's like slap yourself on the legs, stand up and go, right, I'm not accepting this. What do I need to do to change this? And that's where you need to sit there and go, how do I get out of this? Myself, I'm not actually in any of these situations. I have been in them a long time ago. So I understand it. I understand, years ago when I think out my wages after a month with all the bills, I had about £10 a month left. Because of cars and, the finance cars, rents, day-to-day bills and everything else. £10 left. And you only had to get a puncture. And financially, my life went backwards. So I've been there. I understand it. And wiping it out, start again, best decision I made. I know some people disagree, but at the same time, it's not a case of, I slept walk into those situations a long time ago because, never had any financial training or anything, and I was in a relationship which was a little bit the opposite of the way I normally work. So I'm normally very thrifty on money, and I'll walk rather than take the bus. Never took a taxi, all that sort of stuff. But partner at the time loved spending money, and it's very hard to get that under control. And once you got so far, very hard to get back out of it. But live and learn. Not in that situation anymore. I always have a safety net. I think my current safety net is over 20,000 euros, which I keep as an emergency backup. And this week I actually opened a savings account in the UK. You think, big deal. Now there's a reason for this. I've put a £500 deposit in there. When I look at my bank account, normally this account's used for bills and then sending money to Spain, etc. So it's not really seen as real money because it's just expenses it's carrying out. So setting up a savings account, I've got 500 in there now. So I'm instantly going, yay, I can see I've got some savings. It's psychological, but it's sitting there with my other bank account. So I go on my app, I can see both accounts. When I see that, my first thought, like this week, after I put the first 500 in, is I need to put another 500 in. And it's psychological, and that's how it's very easy for me to build it up, because what I'll do is got the Xbox here, and I go PlayStation 5, and I go, right, I've got 500 quid in the bank. Buy that, do I need it? And then I sit and look and think, I've got probably 40 odd games, and I only ever play one. Do I need it? No, I shove it in the savings, and once it's gone from the main account to the savings, it's gone. Complete separate account, it's going, that's your savings, I won't touch it. But once it's out the bill account, I won't touch it. I've took that opportunity out of the mix. And that's how I work, and I learned a long time ago about keeping your finances in boxes. You know, your bills, your car, your house. You box all your money off every month, and like I say, you end up with, a lot of those days, £10 left over. And sometimes I was working 2 jobs as well. That was a bizarre thing. So I've been there. It's not a case of I'm not talking from experience. I've been there, and it was very hard, and it was very difficult. And I had to reset the clock. I had to go back to day one and just do it all again. Didn't file for bankruptcy, but wasn't far off it. Sometimes life is hard like that. But like I said, when they're going, oh, you won't get another mortgage. Well, in those realms, I would never be able to get a mortgage anyway. Why is that? Well, I only had £10 a month. I would never be able to get a deposit together. So, yeah. So it's not just talking about things from a blinded perspective. It's coming from the harsh realities as I've been there. And what I find with a lot of these people that haven't worked for 5 years or whatever, they're in a rut. They're not in a situation they can't improve. Unless they've got some serious illnesses. And even then, I would say in some cases they could still work part-time or stuff, because it's not just about having money. Money's not important in life. The important bit is self-worth. Sitting at home all day and just having a gyro or whatever, going into getting money in the bank from the state, doesn't add any self-worth. It's an existence. But even working part-time, with just working part-time online, you will be in a group of people. You've got something that you can focus on. You've got an opportunity there. You've got people that are in a similar mindset, similar business, similar thoughts. You've got self-worth. You've got something that gets you up in the morning at 7 a.m, 8 a.m. instead of lunchtime. It gives you perspective. It gives you something that says you're worth something. Because there's too much in this life telling you that you're worth nothing, because it's all gone consumerism. So, your skin's not dark enough, it's not light enough. You need teeth whitening, you need your nose fixed, you need a hair transplant. All that crap is constantly being pushed. Your car's not big enough. Your house isn't big enough. Your car's not new enough. Your car's not electric. Your car's not hybrid. You shouldn't have a car. There's a constant you telling you how you should live your life. Ignore it. You need to get to a point where you can actually turn around and go, I'm happy with where I am. I'm happy with this situation. If you're not, change it. It's a bit like this Harry Meghan thing. I'm going to keep this short. It keeps appearing on my YouTube feeds and whatever, and it was quite funny before, because I remember April mentioned it to me. And when they were on about Merkel or whatever, I was thinking, I thought they were talking about the German Chancellor, because I had no idea who Harry and Meghan were. I know Harry is the little ginger from the royals. But the point is, no idea anything about them. So I was like, why is he with the German Chancellor? The former German Chancellor. Because is it Meghan Merkel or something? I don't know. But when they said it, I thought it was, what's this all about? But then you go, it's like, something I don't need to listen to. If it goes in Hello Magazine, I don't need to know. I'm really not interested. There's far more important things going on in the world, and even more important things in my own life, because it's like politics. Unless you're going to change them, don't worry about them too much. The world revolves around the societies that are being generated, and one of the problems is a lot of these societies that are currently extremely biased. I'm just going to keep it simple. Is that will correct itself at some point anyway. History's always dictated that. What you find is politics does that, left, right, and it's just going straight up the middle. Because what you have is a lot of people come from the same schools, same backgrounds, and they sit on both sides of the government. As such, there is no true democracy as such, because it doesn't represent the population of a nation. They tell you it does, but I tell you it doesn't. You know, if it was proportional representation of different parts of society, I would say that would recognise the state, but I would also say there's a high risk of it being a bigger problem as well. Because one of the big problems you have is, let's just say, in the UK, what's the rate of unemployment? It's a hidden figure. Why is it hidden? Because you have people that are on back to work schemes, signed off on the sick, social services side. It's an obscured number because they fudge the figures to suit themselves. But they're probably a majority when you come to employment, bizarrely, because there's that many in one. We could call it a critique, one group, niche, compared to, say, number of plumbers. So when you go proportional, you've got to take that into account. Do you call them a plumber or do you call them unemployed? Because if they're unemployed, they'll have a lot more clout than plumbers. Just an example. We're going off on a tangent, but this is why I don't overthink politics, because quite simply, it's a complicated beast. It's riddled with corruption, and most importantly, I have very little control of it, so I don't waste my time on it. What I do recommend, though, is I've got to see if I've got any of my latest books here, but I think they're on the bookshelf. I do recommend reading a lot. I do get a lot of books from the airport lounges, bizarrely. I spend a lot of time at WH Smith's. They have a lot of good, positive books in there. It's a bit weird because they don't have the same sort of books when you go to, say, Waterstones and whatever. I think the airport lounges have a specific mindset for who buys the books in there. So there's a lot more business development stuff that I often can't find in the high street stuff. But I do recommend just thinking about what you want to achieve. Now, if you ask me, well, what do I want to achieve? I'll finish the video off on that, because you can switch off now if you're not interested. But the whole point is, I do hope you found the video interesting, because I was just listening to some of the stuff this morning about, people going, oh, I've lost my house, I've done this and this, and you knew about it for 6 months. That's me. You knew this was coming for 6 months. What did you do about it? Oh, I just sat there and whinged about it. Right. Well, I can see why you haven't progressed. I can see why you may have friends that didn't help you, because they're sitting possibly thinking self-inflicted. You did nothing. You've got 3 kids. Do something about it. So for me, I've got to drink my coffee while I'm doing this, by the way, because the fan's making it cold. That was strong. Okay. So for me, I'm at a pinnacle point in where I want to be and what I'm achieving. So there's a couple of key things. Firstly, I've got my office area, which means I can start looking at alternative business ideas and things I've been looking at with Carlos and a couple of other people, because I'm interested in renewable energy. I'm interested in call center development, virtual assistants. Virtual assistants is not focused on the Philippines where we originally got involved in it. I'm looking at the fact that the environment in the UK has gone more remote. You see a lot more jobs advertising hybrid working, remote working, but they're struggling to get people to go back. I mean, I've got to admit, the COVID period was quite a hard reality for me, because while I was continuing working and other people, I was listening to a friend's wife and they go, oh yeah, I've got furloughed and they paid me £1,800 a month. And I'm like, she didn't earn £1,800 a month in a job. What the hell's this about? And I just thought, stinking corruption in the UK. And it's not her fault, by the way, it's what they gave her. But it was quite a strange environment where lots of people weren't coming to work, and a lot of it was choosing not to come to work. You know, you were getting stuff that we had major IT infrastructure that was required, driven by the central business, and millions invested, and IT send out going, oh, we're not allowed to go to site because we've had the business says if you don't need to go, don't go. And you're sitting there going, all right, don't do it then. You know, because me, I'm just like, okay, well, I've been told to make it happen. I've done what I can, but none of these guys actually work for me. So fine, it just doesn't happen. And they go, yeah, but you need to get it. I can't do anything about it. It's not my infrastructure. But it was just interesting. For me, I'm always driven to actually do something, you know, business-wise. It's always got to hit the deadlines. It's all got to be progressed. It's always got to happen. And to be fair, that probably had quite a negative effect on myself, because we were losing people en masse. And then eventually I left the company that was just an absolute sham. They put this 23-year-old child in as an account manager. It's not that I had an issue with him directly, it's just the fact he was completely incompetent. And he basically lost all his management team and probably a third or a quarter of the staff on the ground, probably more. I just seen it as a lost cause because I was already working the jobs of 3, and I started to think, this ain't for me. And they made this like false thing as well. So when that sort of come about, I just thought, pulling the plug, walking away. And then they're trying to get you to come back, and you're like, not interested. Done, dusted. Warned you what was going to happen. Warned you this is what the business is going to end up down this path. And yeah, not too much hassle for me in that sense, because moving on took 2 days. But the same problems often are in the actual industry itself. So the next job needs a lot of work, and I've spent a year now fixing a lot of things, but the difference is I find they actually listen more. As such, the correction's been substantial because I know this stuff inside out. The other business, it was a case of 23-year-old child is listening to directors of, I think their original director was HR, involved in engineering. So he was arrogant enough to actually turn around and say things like, do you know who I am? Which I just looked at him strangely and go, what sort of question's that? If you have to ask, then there's something not right. Because you either assume people know who you are, which is the point you don't have to raise it, or you think you're that important that you're asking in the hope of stroking your own ego, which is just mental. But either way, for me, it was just like, these people ain't got a clue what they're doing, and they have driven the business down a very bad path. But we'll see what their numbers come out with. But the whole point is, I learned some valuable lessons in the sense of start to take more care of myself, start to go, well, I can't achieve it, don't worry about it, because for pretty much my entire working career, I've driven everything towards constant success. Because that comes from being from a military childhood and military family, that it's not just about doing your job, it's actually you meet all obligations all better. So I've started to, like the weekends, not doing work, and that's only recently started, because before that I was working 7 days a week, and have been, like, this goes back through the whole COVID period, because like I said, we lost a lot of people, so just picking up the slack. Now I'm in a position to go, there's nobody in that position anymore, so if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Completely different mindset. Is starting to go, I need to focus on the future. The focus for my work stuff is to get me 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. Weekends is my time, evenings is my time. Walking in the park first thing in the morning is my time. And starting to focus on where I want to take things now, which is currently two-pronged. First one is either going for another property in Spain or putting it all into investments, because one of the things you've got to weigh up is the interest rates are going up. So before, I think it was getting like it's 0.03% or something stupid. It was less than 1% anyway. It's now at 2%, and if I put 10k in, it's I think it's 4%. So that's the change on the investment side. But you're looking at mortgages at 5%, but I've just seen that they're now sticking a little note on my bank account that wasn't there before, on about we pay much more than I should. I'm at risk of actually ending up having to pay extra taxes on the property because of paying too much off early. So I've got to throttle that back, so I'll take that money and invest it instead. A little bit frustrating because I want to get the property paid off, but I don't want to pay any taxes I don't have to. So from that front, you're going, right, that's where my next load of cash is going. These are the business opportunities that are going to fund the next stage. Now, cash-wise, I've got a fair chunk of cash every month that's available, because my cost of living is cheap in the UK, because I keep, like I say, I live in a little room, and then the rest of the time I'm in London, Warrington or Liverpool working, so I do spend a lot of time in hotels, or if I'm not there, I'm here. So I'll just keep that where it is. I may even get rid of the car in the UK, because quite simply I'm using it to go to the supermarket, because when I'm going to London and other areas, going on the train. I'm now on that run to the sun, where I'm evolving my finances now, because I've got the critical bit, which is this bit I'm sitting in. That is the foundations. Like the Philippines, when we bought the lot next door, a lot of stuff, once we had the property, everything started to roll from that in a bigger way. You know, we had a lot more money coming in and out with the call centre and stuff. This is now at that stage. I've got a work environment. I've got a quiet work environment. I haven't got my daughter singing in the background and my son playing the Xbox or something behind me. It's a space where I can have meetings, a space I can develop ideas, a space I can have whiteboards on the wall and start working out where we're going from here. The COVID, like I said, the situation was excessive working, but also it locked us down. So you're isolated, because like I said, a little room in the UK. Sometimes I wouldn't see anybody for a couple of weeks. Worse than prison. But the reality is, it put me in a better perspective of knowing where I want to be. It's here, it's Spain. It's driving the changes now to make that sustainable. And I use the word sustainable. Sustainable is not Other people call it retirement. Now, I'm not retiring yet. I'm not even 50 yet. Although I may look older in some of the videos because I'm tired a lot of the time. But realistically, if I can get the finances where I've got investments or other properties funding our costs here, I would then pull out of work and start working on the other types of businesses we want to do, independent of reliance on going back to work, which means I can focus on a lot more, because then I haven't got to worry about bills being paid, etc., etc. It's like that's my key at the moment. I don't think we're that far off it. I don't think. I mean, realistically, I'm not talking weeks. I'm talking probably 3 years. See, that's what knocked the 5-year plan, the bloody COVID. But I don't think I'm far off target of what I originally planned. Now, if we can get some good ideas rolling, that could obviously fund it much quicker, and the changes can happen much quicker. I mean, when I look back, if you look at the call centre was making up to $17,000 a week profit. That's the sort of, when you get something that runs right, that's the sort of numbers you're talking about. You suddenly get these little things that just go bang, money in the bank, and you've hit something. And why that's important is, it was a woman who she was from Liverpool. She used to sell the little woggles, like the old women used to have a headscarf and they'd have like a woggle that the scouts have. She used to sell those at a market in Liverpool. She does, I don't know if she's still around now, but she was, she does like the TV selling channel type stuff in New Zealand. But what she had is, she had a phone number. I think I've talked about this before. She had a phone number in her pocket. She rang this guy when she went to New Zealand and says, look, I can sell anything, blah, 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 give us a chance. And that's all she had. She didn't have, I don't think she had much money with her either, in just one suitcase. She just went there on the spur of, I'm going to make this happen. Now, her ethos was very, very simple, that you can be wrong 200 times and fail 200 times, but you have to be right once. And that is basically it. So this is what separates a lot of people out. It's that fear of getting things wrong. It's the fear that what do other people think and all that sort of stuff. Those people all disappear when something goes right. I've had it before. I remember some idiots that were saying I was banned from the Philippines. And then, because I remember, it's when I went back and I seen Jay and I think Barry Jordan was there at the time. But the thing is, I shoved it on YouTube, because the problem is with trolls is they like to put out this nonsense. And then when you actually put it all live on YouTube or whatever, all the people that they've been lying to suddenly start asking the question, but why is he sticking on YouTube if he's so worried about immigration, the police and everything? Oh, because the trolls are lying. But it's just one of those things. You've got to understand that psychologically, not everybody's switched on. But the point being is, the people that are quite negative and whatever, if you get something successful, they disappear. They fade out. I'll probably have trolls on here today now because I mentioned it. But the point being is, all the negative stuff fades out because you've proven them wrong. What you'll get is, for example, Jim down the pub saying, oh yeah, I'm a good friend of such and such. We used to go at the football every week and all that sort of stuff. Yet the same guy would, if your business had failed, would be saying, yeah, I did tell them that was a crap idea and everything else. That's just humans. But if you never try, you'll never get there. And it's taking that risk. You'll get a knockback. You'll get things go wrong. Not everything is supposed to go right first time. It was so easy everybody would do it, everything would be up here, and everyone would still be at the same level because everything's so simple. Getting ahead in that way is hard work. I mean, I experience some issues around the old green envy around the neck because I have a lifestyle in Spain. You know, people think, oh, you know, because, you know, they may think, oh, you're not working because you're in Spain. My response to that is, don't base me on the way you would be. So you're telling me you wouldn't work in Spain, but the amount of work I do and complete, it's very obvious that I'm often putting more hours in than a lot of other people. I'm often having to build stuff from scratch because it's not been done before. So even from a value point of view of knowledge, etc., I'm injecting that into the business when it's not there. But some people get hung up on this stuff because why have you got something I haven't? And you go, you put off £350,000 in Surrey. Okay, yeah, but I've got my house by the beach. Somebody's not answering the door downstairs. I've got a house at the beach, but at the same time, okay, this one's, I don't even know how much it's worth, probably $250,000 now. But the point is, I worked for it, I earned it. It's 100,000 less than the one you've got in Surrey. What's the difference? Oh, because it's by the beach in the sun. That's a life choice. I don't want to live in the same misery. You know, I don't want to be sat in the snow this week. I want to be sat by the beach in the 30-degree heat. That's my choice. I'm not a fan of cold weather. And the fact I've built my life around creating this environment for my family, that's planning, that's a choice, that's something I wanted to create for the family. But anyway, guys, this is my longest video ever, I think. What was that? Nearly an hour. So I just want to sort of finish it off on just whatever you do, realise, firstly, it's your choice, your decisions. Because even if it's a bad job, you can actually turn around and say, right, I quit. That's your choice. You know, I've had it before where companies, they say, you must be here at such, I said, there's no must. I can say no, I can tell you to shove your job up your backside, or I can tell you it's not my job or responsibility, it's yours. You should be there. But there's always alternatives, so choices are yours. Nothing's permanent, things can always be changed, and think that life often will do that. It never goes in a straight line to the way you want. So if you get knocked back on one thing, realise something else may go positive that you weren't expecting. It's often, it's important that you push yourself. Not always excessively. It's like I said, sometimes you need to just shake up and say, right, hang on, you've been sat watching daytime TV for the last hour and a half. You've got better things to do, even if it's painting the fence in the garden. It's getting off your backside and making changes yourself. Another one is money's not permanent. You know, you're not going to take it with you when you die, so don't worry about it too much. Life goes up and down for everybody, so you may be in a low, but there'll be a high that will come at some point. Don't fixate on it. If you're not happy where you are financially, think about how you can change it, because you always can. People that say they can't, well, there's no point discussing it, and you've given up already. There is always ways out of it. If it's even taking on even a part-time job to basically hit your debt, there is ways out of these problems. Next one is, don't let things overwhelm you. It's very easy to get in that situation because today's society has gone well-being mad. Everyone's got to talk about their problems and all this sort of stuff, which I think actually drives more problems as well, because people are starting to overthink or seeing themselves as failures or whatever, where normally they may not even have thought about it because they're so busy with other stuff. A lot of this stuff around you is overthought by people that have a very narrow window. They often don't understand the situations they're talking about, or there's an alternative to it. You know, especially when you're looking at HR and stuff. They're business focused, not individual focused. The market sort of changed some time ago, but realise everything's temporary. Everything doesn't need to affect you. And if you're going through a rough patch now, realise you'll look back at it 5 years, 10 years, depending on how bad it is, and you'll think, why did I let that drag me down? It can be changed, and you're the key to this. You can hold that, you can make those decisions, you can make those choices. That is down to you. If you can do those 5 things, I think you're in a much better spot. But I just want to push this out today. I know it's a long video, and I don't normally do these type of more scenario type things, but it'd be nice if any of these videos have been useful to you. I'd appreciate if you actually put a comment and say, yeah, you helped me do this or whatever, because I do a lot of these videos, and to be fair, some of them have a negative impact on the channel, which I don't really care about, because I could talk about I could put a Philippines video up in the next 10 minutes. I'll get a lot more views, but I've moved on from there now. Maybe back this year, but there's a good chance I'm just going to send the wife and kids instead, because they'll want to go for a month. I think work would have a meltdown if I left for a month. Anyway, guys, have a great day, great weekend, and thanks for watching.